Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We have an agenda. Anybody have anything to add?
I
Yes.
do. I've got 5 community grants.
Community grants.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to rattle them off right now. I'll rattle them
No.
off when it's time.
No, yeah, we'll
Thank
deal
you.
with them at the time. Anybody else? Hearing none. Approval to, or a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded? Carried. Any conflict of interest from anybody? Hearing none. Our next item is our presentation. Just lost my menu. There it is. Presentation. We have presentation from the Brook and District Fire Department with Jonathan LeBlanc. Jonathan, mic is yours. And Rob.
So I'm Jonathan LeBlanc, I'm Chief with the Brook and District Fire. This is Rob McLeod, he's our treasurer. So as you all know, we're looking for a new hall. It's getting to the point where it's in very dire need. So about us, a little bit of history. We were formed in the early 50s after a gas station burnt, which was located about where Malcolm's Garage is now. After that, the community banded together, formed the fire department, and in the mid-50s they were able to build the hall, which originally was just 2 bays. Later on there was 2 more bays added. Later on the roof was modified to be able to fit in our new rescue, and so on and so on and so on. So today the department's grown, we have about 30 members. More training, more stuff's being pushed all the time. Our members are very proud of what we've accomplished. You know, we've competed in Jaws Life tournaments and placed 3rd in the Maritimes a couple times. You know, so we do work hard for what we have, I guess. We service a very large district and with a varied variety or a large variety of buildings, types of calls. The 103. We have about 20 kilometers of it, so you know there's a lot of car accidents, stuff like that. We have schools, nursing homes, commercial buildings, storage buildings, residences. We have about everything. We're also the most central department in the area, so we're constantly getting called to mutual aid. We've been to Wedgeport a couple times the last month. We go to Pubnico often. We're automatic with Wedgeport and Lake Vaughan for anything they get, as well as Quinnen and Amiros Hill. So you know that is a big factor. We can be a very busy department by times. And having said that, you know we're also doing more and more all the time. When it started off, we fought fires and that was it. Now we're doing medical calls. We're doing Jaws of Life. You know anything that RCMP or EHS don't do, we get the call. So, and with that comes more training, you know. So I mean, just the past 2 weekends, I've been in training all weekend to renew my MFR course, as well as a couple other members. So it's just always something, and then meetings and fundraisers, everything on top of that. So, you know, it really makes it hard to try and tackle a lot of this other stuff that's going on. So currently, in our hall, we only have enough room for the 4 apparatus we have. And when I say we only have enough room, that's all we have. When the rescue is backed in, it's about 2 feet from the furnace. When the engine 2 is backed in, it's about 3 feet from the pump in the sink. You know, the guys are putting on their bunker gear and they're running in the trucks, getting their jackets on. That's, you know, we just received that rescue from Yarmouth. We had to take a 2-inch antenna off the roof in order to fit it through the door. So, at one point our tanker was down for repairs. We borrowed one from Surrett's Island. We were very grateful for that. But even then we had to shuffle our trucks around just to be able to fit that loaner into the hall because there was only 1 bay door it would fit in. So training, you know, any training we do is generally off-site. If we want to do any training in the hall, we have to pull trucks out. Summertime, not so bad. Wintertime, you know, it's a big deal. And we can't just pull them out the bays. There's not enough room between the hall and the road to just pull the trucks out. Meetings, and it's the same story. We've been holding our meetings at the club for years because we just don't have space available in our hall. We have nowhere to go to have a confidential conversation, whether it's, you know, to reprimand somebody when need be, which doesn't happen often, but a lot of the stuff we deal with can be very sensitive. You know, people see things they don't like to see, don't want to see, so if they want to talk to somebody, we don't really have a good space to do that. We have no washrooms. We have a pump with one sink and that's it. We have no room to put a septic system, no land for it. So, you know, we couldn't do that if we wanted. The cost to make repairs to that building, I don't even want to guess what it would be. I don't really want to put the money into that, knowing that we have to move forward regardless, you know, because it would be quite substantial. Right now, I mean, there's more air blowing in than what there is heat being produced, I think, so. We have no land at the present location to be able to expand. You know, if we wanted to, we just don't have it. There's also no parking for firefighters. When we do show up and we do park our vehicles there, we're in Malcolm's garage, you know, in his way a lot of the times, so. So the building we're looking at putting up, we want to go with ICF, which is insulated concrete forms. People see it as the little Lego blocks that get built up and then it's filled with concrete in the center. So the life expectancy of one of those buildings is about 125 years plus, depending on maintenance. Compared to steel buildings like what Wedgeport has, that's a 50 to 60 year building. In fact, Island in Barrington put one up in 2002 or 3, and they just had to replace all their steel on the outside because it had rusted. So, having said that, you know, we're not going to be coming back in 50, 60 years looking for another one. The energy efficiency of ICF construction saves up to about 70% of the energy costs. So, you know, there's huge, huge savings there. I was speaking with Dave Kendrick from Barrington just the other day, and Barrington Port Latour just built a new hall in the last year out of ICF. And he said out of their 3 fire stations, that one uses less than half of the fuel of the others. I know it is a big problem in Wedgeport. The chief there said they have a hard time heating their hall. You know, just the type of construction, it's not well insulated, it's drafty. So, now ICF does come with additional costs over steel buildings. From what we're getting from our architects, we're looking at about a $2 million project where steel might be 1.2 to 1.3 in that area. However, the payback costs due to the energy savings, no matter the size of the project, has proven to be about 6.6 years. So whether it's a $2 million building or a $20 million building, those extra costs to go from, you know, typical construction to ICF is about a 6.6 year payback.
So we just wanted to talk about what would cost in regards to having the building, a steel building, and what that would cost in the future. So we are looking for a sizable amount of money, but we just wanted to compare what $1 million would be. Now we looked at it 50 years from today, and that actually is up to about 3.4 million. So in 50 years from now, you know, none of us will be around, but that's a sizable amount of request for the same type of building. And that's just with a steel building. We're not looking at what we're looking to present, but we just wanted to show you that actual cost at $3.4 million. So this is just the layout of the building. Back here is all the bays, which right now we would have 5 of the 6 units filled. Gives us room for 1 additional unit should we need down the road. You'll notice at the top there we've got listed as a fitness center, which is listed here, and that is subject to financing with a COA. So we are going to request funding for that. So if we can get that funding from a COA, that will save in the full cost of the building. We've got a meeting room right here. That's where we would hold our meetings so that we wouldn't have to do those off-site. The comfort center, so the reality is this whole unit would be a comfort center should we need it to be. we pulled the trucks out, we would have a kitchenette, small kitchenette. We're not looking at a formal dining area or any of that. But there's room in here for people that need to come in event of a disaster, to have power to generate, to get warm, whatever that may be. So we would consider that our comfort center. Office areas, as we presently, as you mentioned, we don't even have bathrooms, so stepping up to have a little bit of an office center, which would be right here. That would be for us to hold our papers, our documentation, and stuff like that. The fireman's lounge, that would be the little kitchenette that we have listed here, same as would be used for the comfort center. And we also have key things of bathrooms and ability to, I mean, we come after a fire, we smell, we stink. We don't have the ability, we have to go home and clean ourselves, and that smell goes through everybody's houses. So, anyway. So, future challenges, just some of the things that we have some issues going forward, not only with the fire department, but the age of the fire apparatuses, as you can tell. We've got an aged fleet of fire apparatuses. Our trucks are all quite old. Our newest one is 15 years old. So what we're looking at when we're presenting for financing, when we go to finance with a financial institution, we're looking at 10-year money. And the reason, I'll speak to that a little bit further, but the reality is in 10 years, we may have to replace some of our other units. So we don't want to have a cost of a building and a cost of tankers and trucks in the future. The other thing is no additional funds will be available to expand safety equipment for items such as decontaminated equipment, cleaning space equipment, which was becoming an increasingly significant issue among fire services due to the increased risk of cancer amongst firefighters. So the key thing is that we want to ensure that all of the money that we're asking for is taken care of in a very short window, so that if we have to go and request money down the road, we'd have the ability to come back to council and request those funds after the 10-year period.
One thing I'd just like to add to that, in 10 years, our primary pumper will be 30 years old. Insurance companies now, once fire departments are hitting 30 years for their vehicles, insurance companies aren't considering those viable fire departments. So insurance rates for the area would skyrocket if we're not able to look at replacing those trucks at that time.
So that's why we've bulked this around a 10-year plan. But what we're requesting from council is to match our present investment of $406,529.38. How this is broken down is that the total cost of the construction is just over $2 million. As mentioned, we are looking for requesting funding from a COA. We ourselves, as the department, have set aside $406,529.38. That's over the past 7 years. So we've been adamant about putting money aside, making sure that we have that through fundraising, through setting funds that we've done from taxation, and we've put that aside. What we're requesting is the funds from the municipality, and then what we would require to finance with the financial institution would be the remaining $693,383.04. Just kind of broke this down, just comparable, just so you guys see where the requirements are. Under 10-year amortization, this is just funds if we had to go. This is the remaining $600,000. What the payments would be through a financial institution based on a prime +1 scenario. And these are the annual payments, and again, it's 10, 15, 20-year money. The rate required, and again, this would be down the road when we go for the ratepayers' request, what our existing rate is and what the change in that would be. The interest cost is, I just wanted to show a comparable of the actual cost savings by doing it over 10-year versus 20-year money. And it's significant. Over a difference of 10 to 15 years, you'd save $103,000 just in interest costs. You're just paying a financial institution. I know I work for a bank, but you know, you would save over $103,000 to the taxpayers. And if we push that out up to a 20-year time frame, we're looking at $212,000. So there's significant savings that we would save the taxpayers in the future. So we're looking not only at building a building, but saving our tax base. So And let's just break down the rate, how do we figure that out? Other than that,
So I have spoken the last few days too with other fire departments which I've built recently. Municipality of Barrington, any new building that goes up, the municipality funds it completely by using their area rate. So the fire department submit a budget, and as long as the municipality approves it, the area rate covers. So there's no money out of pocket, no lending, no borrowing, no looking for grants on their end, but it is done through their area rate. Municipality of Clare, I spoke with Danielle Godin from Saint Bernard. They just opened their new hall in the summer. The project was $1,078,000. They received $501,000 from municipal funds, not an area rate, just strictly municipal funds, and then they received $577,000 through gas tax funds. So their project was completely paid. Theirs is a fire hall and community center combined. So just, just to compare, just to show what.
and the difference in the
what's
price
going on.
was the fact that they were doing a renovation. Unfortunately, the land that we have doesn't give that opportunity to do a renovation on our building, so.
Just a question, if you don't mind. The municipality of Clare gave them half out of municipal funds and half gas tax.
Yeah,
So there was no rate paying whatsoever responsible on that.
there was not. The cost of the project was $1,078,960. Total they received from gas tax was, I had them backwards, $501,960, and the total received from the municipality was $577,000.
And that's just straight from their coffers?
Yes.
Municipal coffers?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Councillor Surratt.
I'd like to ask a CAO, I've got a couple of questions, but CAO, are we allowed to use gas tax fund for a fire hall?
That is,
Strange when you said that.
well, I think the answer is, I believe that the community hall aspect of that construction may have made them eligible.
Okay.
I don't
And
believe,
that is what it was.
yeah, so.
But I do believe the fitness center portion of ours could also possibly do that too.
Yes.
Because it would be open to community as well as our meeting room.
Recreation infrastructure is a qualified gas tax expenditure. Yeah, so the difference, see Claire, and just to clarify a little bit on the rate,
Yes.
Claire collects an area rate across their municipality. And what they do is they establish what the priorities are, and they pay for those priorities using that rate. So our system is slightly different. We only set in a rate, a capital rate, when we have a capital expense.
That's right.
They do a consistent capital rate across the board, and then they determine the priorities amongst the fire departments, what needs to be purchased, including mostly equipment and trucks. I'm less familiar with how they deal with buildings, but clearly they did something. So,
Yeah.
and I imagine it's the same concept through that area rate. So
And I know they are looking at buying a new ladder truck for their area now, but it would be done for the municipality as a whole.
Yeah.
To finish,
Yes.
that answers my fitness center. Why would you need that? I see where you're going with that.
The only reason for us to put that in,
Yeah.
A, was for the community, but, I mean, it was to generate income so that we can,
Yeah.
lessen the burden on
Put your
taxes.
hands into, some other money right on. Comfort center, do you have to, which is my final question, comfort center, is there an approval for a comfort center, or have you went and looked at what it requires to be a comfort center? Like
We're not looking-
Shannon would know that, but.
Yeah, we've been working with Jeanine on it,
Yeah, okay.
but we're also not looking to become a shelter.
Well, there's a difference there.
There's a
I
difference.
get
We're
you.
looking to be a comfort center, so power goes out, people have no heat, they got somewhere they can come warm
Okay.
up, charge their cell phones, whatever.
Absolutely.
We are hoping to put washer hookups so people can come wash their clothes in a drought, showers. It would also require that we get a good well,
Absolutely.
So, and like I say, a kitchen, not a large commercial kitchen by any stretch, but just enough that if, people need some help,
Get by.
that we're there, right?
Good, got it, thank you.
Well, I know me and Nicole's gonna say the same thing, so you go ahead, Nicole.
Go ahead.
So we had talked, that's probably what you were going to say,
Yeah.
with Jeanine through EMO about comfort centers and what we're going to do. We talked about that at the last meeting, and Eelbrook's, their new building came up in the
Came up,
conversation.
yes.
And we would be looking at probably contributing money for helping them out with the comfort center. And another thing too that I wrote down, because of all the droughts and things like, you've mentioned a well, and Janine had mentioned also like a water source, somewhere that people could go to get potable water.
Right.
Because they're building something new, that would be something we could consider as well.
As well.
Yes.
Is that where you were going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there provincial money for that?
They're looking into that.
All right.
Yeah.
We're trying. Okay, so your gym area, you're saying that it's dependent on a co-op, okay?
Well, it's dependent on receiving enough funding
That's what I mean, from a co-op.
to pay, well, we're hoping to find something through a COA, yes.
Okay, so if a COA doesn't come through, are you still going with the same? Because I didn't understand that. I understood that if not.
If not a COA, if we can't locate any, I have located one other grant right now for $150,000.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
obviously, that isn't enough to cover, and we
right.
still have to apply.
So
But
what would, yeah.
If we
okay.
don't get enough funding to justify the extra cost of putting that in, then we won't put it in. So basically, those rooms would get shuffled around and the footprint would shrink. And,
Okay,
you know, the
okay.
cost would decrease a little bit because of that.
Which was my question, like here, the footprint.
Yeah, it's only gonna go
would-
in if we can get enough
Yes,
funding to
and that
justify.
size building only goes if you can get the gym as well.
And the other thing that we did not include there is that we are also looking for corporate sponsors.
Oh,
for the,
great.
For
Yes.
the development of this.
Uh-huh.
So we'll be going to the community as well, throughout the
Exactly.
province, large corporations, such as banks and all those fun places.
Ultramarines.
They do provide funding.
No, I know.
So
Just laughing at
the
you.
area rate then
Running
is
gas.
7.5 right now.
Yes.
So you're only, if you go with 10, you're not increasing as much as what you had thought,
Yeah,
or
but
not
the thing is, right
predicting.
now, we still don't know, I guess for us right now, we still don't know if we're gonna get all these
All
fundings that
the
we've listed.
funds as well, which could increase the
So,
area rate.
what we're kinda leaning towards right now is an increase of about 5 cents.
Right,
But if we get all this funding as well as that 5 cents, we may be able to have it
Okay.
paid in a shorter time than 10
Okay.
years. And then, you know, decrease it drastically
right.
before, you know, before.
I think
we
our
expect
track
it to.
record of doing what we said we were going to do, when we had our 5, 6 years ago, when we had our initial ratepayers meeting, we said that we set the monies aside, and that $409,000, not only is it fundraising, it is the monies that we said that we would set
That's right.
aside. Not one penny was used
Okay.
for anything other than for this department, because it was planned that we were going to do it. So I think our word stands for that we'll
Absolutely.
set that money aside.
Great point.
And the big reason we're putting the big push on right now is because we'd like to try and get everything in within this budget.
exactly.
Because I really don't know if we dare spend another winter in that hall.
And the reason that he says that, and I just wanted to get to this picture
Oh,
here,
yes.
this wall is actually bowing out.
Yeah.
This is going to collapse. Having had a bad winter, we would have lost that building.
Mhm.
Like, it's just a matter of time. We're not gonna get a couple more years of it. This is a matter of, once that goes, we'll pull the trucks out. They're exposed to the environment, and then all of a sudden, those trucks are not gonna be, their life is just short.
That's right.
We live in a salt area where it will rust away quickly.
Yeah. Any more questions, anybody?
Council
Yep.
first.
I don't see any more.
Oh, yes.
I guess my question is more towards Ellen, like we know a number now. So will you be bringing back different scenarios before we set the budget on where we're gonna go with a
Oh,
file like this?
Yeah, absolutely, sure,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, this represents a shift, this ask represents a shift in how council is going to look
Completely, completely.
at fire departments. And so the first step we need to understand is, from a staff perspective, is what's your plan, right? I mean, like, ultimately, we need to understand what your strategy might be. I mean, I don't think anybody, there's no argument, there needs to be something done. But the question is what and how do we finance it and how does it work? So, staff will provide information to you. Obviously, we'll work, as we have all the way through, collaboratively with the Eelbrook Fire, to try to understand what that looks like. So, short answer, long answer short, or the other way around. we will be presenting you information, but we're gonna need some direction from council to understand exactly how we move forward. Okay. So I just had a.
Yes, go ahead.
So the cost estimate of 2 million, is that, like, what level estimate is that? Is that your architects giving you a per square foot, so it's class D?
That's, yeah.
What's the I'm gonna rattle off some questions, so just tell me to slow down. What's the square footage right now you're looking at?
It is laid out on the floor, the dimensions are laid out on the floor
Yeah, I
plan.
couldn't see it, it was too small. 15 years ago, I might have been there.
I think when I transferred it over, it's not.
I can get that to you,
Yeah,
yeah.
but like, is it 9,000, is it 10,000, is it 7,000, like?
Let's see if we can see it
Can you
here.
If I remember right, I think it was
It
around
goes blurry.
9,000 square feet,
Okay.
Yeah, it's too blurry.
if I remember right. I will confirm though.
All right, that'd be great. And recognizing that a good chunk of that is basically just fairly open space for your, trucks.
Truck bays.
Just a couple of things, like, so you've got, how many trucks in there? You've got six bays.
units. We have 6 bays, yeah.
How many can come out at any time in the winter? Like, so, cause like, other fire departments are very hesitant to pull some of their apparatus out. in the
Anything with
winter.
water you'd want to keep inside, obviously. So our rescue could come out, we have a trailer we use for all our fundraising events, that could come out. So there, basically, right now, we have 3 apparatus that wouldn't be able to stay out for any amount of time.
Right, so that's plenty of room for a comfort center, right?
Yes.
Like, if you pull those 3 out, that would be
Yeah.
plenty of room for anybody to,
Yeah.
if they needed that extra space.
Yes.
So this includes a generator included in the,
Yeah,
in the.
it will include a generator.
Great question.
Heat source was oil, is that what you said?
Right now, in conversations with the architects, we're leaning more towards propane. That is becoming a much more common option, especially with in-floor heat. And it would also serve to power the generator, or to fuel the generator.
And possibly a stove.
And stoves,
If
yeah.
you've got no power, then you've cut your generator costs by doing that.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so, you talked about the recovery of ICF over, a 6-year period, so the difference in cost is about 700 grand. So I was trying to understand, how do you recover that difference over 6 years with utility reduction? It
The heating
seemed
costs,
short.
it does, I agree, it does seem short, but I guess the studies I've found, just researching it myself, is where I got that
Okay.
information. And I read through 5 or 6, and they all said it was about 6.5 to 7 years.
Yeah, so it mustn't just be about efficiency, it must be something else, because you wouldn't have utilities costing that much over 6, like, it would mean that you'd save $100,000 a year for 7 years.
Right, yeah.
So the reason,
And maybe they prorate, like, the life expectancy into that somewhat too,
Yeah.
you know?
yeah, well, anything that you do at the front of it, if you can get capital funding, it's always better.
Mhm.
Because then the operating costs is the cost that you worry about.
Yes.
You worry less about after.
Yeah.
The council did the same thing with our building, like, we made conscious decisions to spend a little bit of money at the front of it, so that you didn't have to spend it in the back.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, I just, so has, the only other question, like, so we can do some research around gas tax eligibility, there might be some things there that could be interesting. Is there any contact with the COA or other funders?
Just very briefly so far, everybody keeps saying, just submit what we plan to do, but they also keep kind of mentioning that they really like to see municipal involvement before it goes too far, so.
Understood. It's like, yeah, municipal involvement is dependent on them and they're depending on us.
It's a big circle.
Yeah, it's a game that we all like to play.
Sounds we heard that before.
What's the interest rate you assumed on the mortgage?
I'm looking at prime +1, coming from a financial institution, that is actually traditionally what they offer
Okay.
for anything that's backed by a municipality, so.
It's prime now, 4.
Prime is 3.95 +1, so, yeah, 4, sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. Yeah.
3.95.
That's your line of work.
3.95.
Yeah, bankers don't round. Okay, that's what I learned today.
Or
Okay.
accountants.
Accountants rounded up.
Round it up, yeah.
All right, so, okay, that was all, just a couple of technical questions that I had. If we could get the square footage, that would be great,
Mhm.
because then we could kind of take a look at that. We have another project going on, so we may have an idea or two of what that might look like. Anyway, so thank you for allowing me those
Thank you.
questions.
No problem. Yes, go ahead.
Might not be a fair question, but I'm gonna ask it anyhow. Would you, you're looking at this size of building, can you do with less than that?
We've considered that, we've been asked that a lot. Currently, we have 4 apparatus.
Yeah.
Plus, we have a trailer that's parked outside in the weather, which we'd like to get in. But the other big thing is, we've been told by Lake Vaughan that once we have our new building, they expect to be delivering us the boat that EMO owns. So that would need a spot to go, and also, if we do receive the boat, I'm gonna look to EHS to try and pick up a utility vehicle from them to use to respond to emergency calls, because I really don't want my guys and girls towing it with their personal vehicles, with no lights, no siren, if it's an emergency situation. So, those 3 things would fill up a 5th bay.
Yeah,
But in all the other departments we've
Yes.
gone to see that have been built recently, the one common thing that everybody kept telling us is, don't build to what you have. Make sure you got a little extra room, because it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but you're gonna need it.
100% agree.
And actually, we actually dropped about 1/3 of the square footage of that, because we did have a community center
Right.
and full kitchenette.
Oh, I get you.
Yes.
But, so, again,
Yeah, we have reduced
the
the scale from
banker in
a
me
little
was
bit.
like, this is gonna make money, and if it's not making money to pay for itself, we
Yes.
can't afford to fund that, or ask for funding. So we did cut the square footage by a full 1/3.
Thank you, that certainly answered my question.
We want to offer the best
Yeah.
alternative for this, and so we've done our. due
Taxpayers and everything, yeah. Good.
diligence.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank
It
you.
was a good
Thank
presentation
you for
for
the
sure.
opportunity.
Yes.
And as you know, we can't say, yes, you've got it yet. But it will be discussed for sure.
Okay, great. Thank
Thanks
you very
again.
much.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. You're not kidding me. So steady, steady.
Okay. So the next item is the adoption of minutes. We have the building committee meeting minutes of February 28th.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, carried. Special council meeting minutes of March the 6th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, yes, question?
Just one thing on the minutes, there's a Guy Bork.
I think it's been changed.
Okay, has it, because it's not on my copy, but I
Yeah,
have to refresh it maybe.
Okay, yeah, I did update it, so.
I thought, I looked at that too, and I looked to see if it was updated, so, yes.
It's still on mine, I'll have to.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
We didn't inform council on the by-election that happened.
Yeah, that's right.
Been away a while.
I love it.
He'll be here next meeting.
Oh, sure, that's all right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded, carried. Regular council meeting of March the 12th.
Second.
So moved and
Second.
seconded.
There's a correction on that one, there's no Warden Richardson.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's the second time I've done that. Second time.
I'm getting there.
So that'll need to be corrected under the Epilepsy Association of Nova Scotia. Okay?
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded, carried. There is no business arising in the agenda. Financial statements, and I guess that's Marcia.
Okay, attached to the agenda is the financial report to February 28th, 2019, showing a surplus of $162,885. There's not a lot of difference between the prorated budget and the actuals in the revenue, but just to go over a few and to look on page 1, services provided to other governments is higher than budgeted by $13,493, which is mostly from the CAO holding the position of the interim manager at the airport for longer than anticipated. Revenue from own sources is showing a surplus of over 16,000. The return on investment and interest on taxes is a little higher than budget, and we also had a Pumlico sewer hookup that we were not anticipating and was not budgeted for. The recreation program revenue is also higher than budgeted. At the bottom of the page, you will also see transfers from own reserves, which is showing a negative 45,833. You'll also see the same number as the surplus in the expenditures. This was money that was to be brought in from the East Pumlico Water Utility account for major repairs to the Pope's Road pump station. The Director of Public Works is currently still waiting for drawings from the consultants and to then go out to tender for this project. We look on page 2 under expenditures. General government services is showing a surplus of just over 25,000. The IT department is showing surplus mainly in software maintenance and capital equipment, which some of this will be spent before the end of the fiscal year. There's also an surplus in employee benefits, which is mainly due to position vacancies. Under protective services, the emergency measure organization is showing over budget. As previously mentioned, this is due to the dry weather that we had last summer and all the water that was supplied to the residents during this time. Property inspection and public works is also showing some savings in conference and training, fire inspection, and equipment maintenance. Recreation and cultural services is showing a surplus. Under recreation, as previously discussed, repairs to the dugout at the East Pumlico Ball Field was budgeted for but did not get done this year. However, the recreation department has received approval to purchase some needed equipment for facilities maintenance. Not all of these invoices have come in yet. The courthouse shows a surplus in areas like advertising, public programming, and supplies, which may change in the month of March. And that is basically all of the financial report. If there's any questions.
Anybody have questions?
Beautiful. Good report. Good report.
Let's see any questions. We need a motion to.
So move
accept.
to accept the budget as presented.
Seconded.
Financials.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded, carried. Okay, strategic priority topics, nothing to discuss there. Now we're at number 8 for decision. A policy change, Article P15, leave of absence. Now that this is for decision now because yeah, for sure. So the only change that I see is change employees who are permitted up to, it used to be 3, now it's 10. That's the only change in red that I've seen.
Yeah.
So that's the only change that we're looking at.
Move that we accept the changes as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
On the question, just for
Yes.
clarity, does not increase the amount of eligible days that any employee has generally.
No.
What it does is allows for those with families, obviously we all have families and situations where illness may occur, and in order to, so our first objective was we want to be attractive to employees that want to raise a family and be present for their family. So 3 days was the minimum standard. So we decided to, we had a lot of instances where there has been some significant illnesses in families,
Right.
and we just didn't feel it was right to have the minimum standard.
Exactly.
The employees still have the same amount of sick days, and they would use those sick days. They just have another area where they can use those sick days
Right.
for.
Okay. No more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded, carried. Next one is up to 40,000 investment to support human resources need for major recreation infrastructure project, and that was something that we had discussed in the group of 9 regarding the Mariner Center and the money or the application that we need to put in for funds for the expansion. So it was felt that there really none of the municipalities had the resources to do that or the expertise to do that in such a short period of time as well. So it was recommended that we hire someone to take charge of that to make sure that we can get that application in on time. And when it says up to, it's up to. It doesn't mean it's gonna cost the 40 per, and this is per unit. It's 120,000 is what we're looking at. And it doesn't mean it's gonna cost that, but we felt that it was better to put enough money in there than put too little and then have to come back. So whatever it would cost, but it couldn't go over the 40,000 per. So, did you want to?
Just, I wasn't part of the meeting, but my understanding was that the 40,000 times 3, also, it doesn't just employ that person, it also
No.
employs the expertise required in order to submit the
Exactly.
application.
Oh, yes, for sure.
So if there are engineering drawings or et
Yes.
cetera, if there's design issues that are required in order to submit, because if we don't have good costing information, we don't know what to ask for.
You
so.
need, that's right, and that's what we gotta have, and we felt that we needed that extra person in order, or the extra people to do that, to make sure that we had a good application as well, you know, so, anyway, that's what that is for, so. Are there any, yeah, go ahead.
I'll move, I'll move that and hope for seconders in case we want to discuss it.
Can we have a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, discussion. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Right, I know it wouldn't say, it doesn't say it in there, in the info we got. I don't see anywhere that, is it clear that the Paraba, the track and field, is it clear in any wording from your meetings that,
Yes.
because I haven't seen anything
That's
that,
a- that-
it fairly stated that Paraba,
But-
the track and field.
But
would
the
be-
outdoor track and, the outdoor, track refers to the track here.
It does.
That's, I'm not wrong in saying that.
No.
No,
Very good.
exactly,
And that'll come in due course, okay. Just want to
Exactly.
clarify that.
that's right.
Question?
Question called. No, did you have something else? Go ahead.
I was just wondering, like, I'm all for this if we can afford it as a municipality. Do we have any idea what it would cost us per year
To run.
to run as a municipality, our part?
I'll let, our CEO, take that.
The answer depends on what we intend
Yeah.
on doing. So there's two costs that we should be concerned with. One is our portion of capital costs.
That's right.
Yes.
Which, you know, we haven't established what our proportion is on that. We don't own the Mariner Center. What we do have is an agreement that says that we would share 1/3 of the operating costs, and that was recently extended by 12 months. So that's the only agreement we have with our partners. The operating costs, we have information from the Morgenstern report, which I will make available to all of you. I don't, and we certainly have shared that a while back, but it's been a while. It was.
This was 2015.
Like,
I was
this
gonna
goes
say-
way back.
I was gonna say, I don't believe I've ever seen it myself.
And it's possible it was
You know.
before you were elected.
Okay, yes.
Counselor.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure that we refresh our members
Yeah.
and our information on that. I do have a summary of that as well that shows what their estimated operating costs are. The answer is, nobody can tell you for sure, because they're based on a variety of assumptions and a number of unknowns right now around development. What we do know is what our YMCA costs in terms of municipal contribution. It costs about between 80 and 100,000 of municipal funds, and I can tell you that's probably not. They would tell you that's not sufficient. So, and then you also have the operating cost of the Mariner Center. So what we don't know is, it's a long answer, I apologize. What we don't know is how the implementation or the integration of two things in one, how that would actually save us money. We don't know that for sure.
Or if it would save us money.
Or if, and so I believe there are efficiencies that would occur based on putting things together, but I don't know that they would offset the additional costs that
Yeah.
would be incurred.
Yeah.
So, I think, the best answer is it's likely going to be more expensive to operate because it's more building. It's more building, it's more activity. Who owns the facility and who runs the facility, there's still some questions around that. Who's responsible for it, what fundraising do we have, what corporate sponsorship is available. So I wish I could give you a more solid answer right now, but I would expect the cost to increase, depending on what we end up getting from a funding perspective. So we're gonna ask for what we asked for, but we may not be successful in that endeavor, and we may have to adjust our applications accordingly. So to the best that we can, we'll try to break down what we expect those costs to be based on what could happen at that facility.
No, that's.
And I guess the first step is to get the application in.
Yeah.
That's number one. And then, once we know what funds, if we get funds and what they're going to be, then we have to start deciding on, okay, what can we do with this money now? Even though we might say we're gonna do this, this, and this, it doesn't mean that with the funding that we get, that we may not. You know, there might be some days that
Yeah.
we can say, no, we just don't have the funds.
Yeah, no, just wondering, you know, as Counselor Nat, as, you know, as long as we're not strapping ourselves, you know, for years and years and years to come, that we can afford this project, that's all.
Okay.
Just one
Yeah.
last point.
Yes.
100% agree, and we'll endeavor to either engage third-party help to do projections or find internal resources to do our best to project what this thing could look like under various scenarios.
Yeah.
So what councils ought to see, what they should be asking for is exactly what you're asking for, is what does it look like? What does it look like if option A occurs, option B, option C, best, medium, worst case scenario? And decide for yourself whether that's something that we can.
Yeah. No, good, thank you very much for the answers.
Okay. Yeah?
Just a point I can make, Councillor Digdon, that when we had gone to the Eastling Centre in Truro, the Rat Centre, I think it's called, and we had a tour of the Rat Centre. It was on some kind of meetings, we were up there, and it was the warden was a Daphne from East Hands, or I think that was his last name. And so he gave us a tour, so the questions came about, you know, they had partnered with the municipal units in the town of Truro, and he was telling us that they had projected, like they knew it was gonna be deficits, but it was almost double what was projected. So, you know, as your point is a great point. And I'm not saying this will be,
Yeah,
but
no,
somebody hadn't
yeah.
done their math properly there. And it was really strapping East Hands, they found, to put a lot of money in. But anyhow, just something to be aware of, great point.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Okay.
So with that, the question of partnership or ownership, you know, would it really make any difference? I mean, if we're committed as a partner, if we're committed as an owner, would it look any different?
Yes.
A lot.
Certainly will.
You know, it's when you own a building, you're responsible for the building, and you're responsible for its long-term operation, both capital and operating. You to become an owner, move into an ownership position as a municipality, you would then, you know, alleviate some of the burden that they have as your partners, but then you take that burden on for yourself as well. You become really, I don't know, from a decision-making perspective, whether you're stronger or weaker. That's hard. That's a governance question. That's not necessarily an ownership question. Finally, I think if you become an owner, this concept of how much everybody pays would really be brought to question. You know, right now we're at 33%. None of the data supports us to be at 33%. The data supports us to be around 31, right? But we don't own it, and so we're not really in the position to tell the other two that their proportions are right or wrong. They own it 50-50, and they may have a conversation around that if we come in as owners. If we come in as owners, that will cause that conversation to occur, in my opinion.
But in the past, I mean, like with the Mariner Center, oftentimes the owners, when there's a deficit, come back to the partners and ask for, you know, for monies to help them out. So I guess I'm just trying to, you know.
I think that, I think it depends on the agreement as well. If you're a non-owner and you have an agreement that says you're paying a third of the deficit, then you're paying a third of the deficit, right? Your agreement currently allows you to walk away from anything capital. You know, so what you said is for 4 years and now +1 is supporting a third of the operating deficit regardless. I mean, there is, you know, I shouldn't say regardless, there's some level of motions that are required when it goes too high, but that's where you're at right now. I think that answers your
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Any more? Okay, I think question has been called.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contraminded? Carried. Okay, that's one. Yarmouth Hospital Foundation, the 15th Annual Spring Gala, and they're looking for a table sponsor, as we've been doing now for a number of years. We've always sponsored one table, so it's there for decision.
Well, it was addressed to me, so I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
What's the amount again, what's the amount?
$1,200, I think.
1,200, thank you.
Yeah, 1,200, yes.
Signed it there, okay, great.
Yeah, so, any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded, carried. The Mariner Center Board of Directors Council Member request. Okay, what that is the other two units have a board member from their council to sit on the Mariner Center Board. And it was agreed that that's what would happen, that we wanted more council to be present at these board meetings. So what we're looking for now is if there's someone who's interested in being on the board of directors for the Mariner Center. Wait a minute, don't jump all at once here.
Well, I figured it, I think it would put you and me in a conflict where we're on the,
Where we're on the
committee for the
on the
expansion.
steering committee for expansion, would that put us in?
But we're,
conflict?
as owners, is it critical that we have a member on the board?
See, we're not owners.
That's what I mean, it's not.
But we're contributors, so.
The agreement you have right now is you have equal governance. So regardless of whether you're owners or not,
You still have.
they would require an elected official to sit there.
on board.
I think they meet Wednesdays at like 5:30 or something
Yeah.
like that. So just because that's important to some councillors.
Yes.
Would that be every Wednesday or every
I
once
think
a
it's
month?
once a month. I'm not even sure if it's monthly, actually. I think it's like 11 meetings a year, 10, 11 meetings a year. So there you would you would get to see some of the inner workings of the day-to-day decision-making that is happening at the Mariner Center. It may or may not be, I'm not sure if it puts either of you in a conflict, but I could understand why you wouldn't want to put your name, because it's like you'd be meeting
Yes.
all the time.
Yeah, after a while, you just gotta start saying no to some. You can't go all the time.
I think it makes sense to have some distance between the
Like
mayor and
steering-
deputy and the board of directors, because the board of directors will have the Mariner Center proper as their decision-making, whereas your role would be further around other
Yes.
centers.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
But it sort of all puts us all in that category, be it them or be it a counselor. Is it really that different?
Well, just that the discussions would be different, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah. I could do it, but I'm just afraid with the time commitment if I can effectively make the meetings.
And I was thinking the same thing. I wonder if we could have an alternate.
Of course.
You know. If you wanna go on and I could go on as alternate.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, yeah, I'd go with that. Try my best.
We need motion.
So move.
Second.
So that's moved that Lucien is the board member.
That's right.
And Digdon is the alternate.
That's right.
And
Glenn.
all in the same motion.
Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded.
Question?
Question called, all in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded, carried. This one here is the Abrams River Community Center that are applying for, they will be applying for, I don't think that they have yet, but they will, for the $15,000 Community Hall Project Grant request. Thing with the Abrams River is, even though it's been an organization for many, many years, they haven't been active in the last few years. And there's a new group that took over, and they're really gung-ho in getting things going again. So I guess what we're looking for here, even though they haven't been really active for the 5 years, we're looking to get, I guess, try to accept them even though they haven't, especially since we haven't had, I think most of the halls have already had the money, the 15, and everybody has to wait the 5 years before, so this year. So that's the request here. Yes.
Having read through the information was presented to us, I make a motion that staff will require a motion from council to waive 5 years eligibility criteria in order to have an application from the Abrams River Schoolhouse awarded.
I'll
Second that.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All I can say is they've already raised enough money themselves to do the roof, which they're really, really going at it. So I expect that this group, they've changed the name. They're no longer called the Abrams River Community Center or whatever. They've changed their name. They're with the joint stocks now, and they're moving forward. Anyway.
Just a comment, and I've heard it around these tables before, that we're spending money all over the place, and in our own communities, we should be putting money where people can show what we're doing, and I applaud the group, and, you know, that's a great thing.
Okay. Wish them all the best.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Carried. Building Inspector Succession Plan. This I will hand over to our CEO.
I can start, and I imagine Hunts may have something to add. This is mostly the creation of Hunts while I was on leave. So basically the background is essentially we have our current building official is at least 2 years, hopefully more, but he's planning retirement. There is a big lack of building officials across Nova Scotia, and in order to, you either buy or you build, essentially, and that's kind of a crude way to say it, but what's happening out there right now is the building inspectors are moving from municipality to municipality. Municipalities are stealing from each other because there's not enough of them out there. So we need to build. And we have a situation where John, our current building official, is more than qualified to mentor and bring along a new person. So that's certainly a non-issue. His experience in this area is without question. And this person, the new person that we hire, be it internal or external, it would be a new position. Because the inspector, he or she cannot be a building inspector unless they become certified. So it takes a 2-year plus period to certify, and so that's why we're talking about it now, right? And we could have been talking about it 3 months ago or 6 months ago. So the recommendation coming from the department, and is firmly supported by myself, is that council approve this new position so that we can fill it, either internally or externally, and start the succession plan. We did the same thing with Peter Crow,
yes,
and that worked very, very well for us. So it's 2 positions, but then it would eventually be 1 position. That position, if successful, would become the building official, and there would be no requirement for 2. This is a short-term requirement to have two positions.
Up until John retires.
Right, and he may not retire, he may retire in the same way that Peter retires, you know, like partial, which, however time we have with John, I'd say the same thing about Peter, is like, not to get too deep in the details, because it's, you know, it's HR, but I mean, they're wonderful. And so, as long as you can have them, you'll take them, you know, so, so because it's a new position, I can't make that decision, that decision must come from council.
A question that I have, and you're saying that John is very well qualified to train this person. So can this new person become a building inspector by just spending the time with John, or do they still have to write exams?
They have to do the courses.
They have to do the courses.
Yes,
anyway.
but they cannot sign off on anything until the courses are completed.
The course is complete.
So they, yeah, so, and that's now that process is improving, but right now the process is not the best.
Right.
For how long it takes.
It takes to have it.
So we know we have a lot of people talented in this area, that people that are either interested in carpentry or other trades that would, that would be very good fit for us to train to become that person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You had a question, Councillor?
Not so much a question, just a comment. I really like the train of thought. I have to congratulate you for taking this approach, because it seems since I've been here, it's often common in levels of government, I find, to scramble at the last minute to get such an issue, you know, fixed. So I think this method ensures that we have the right person, you know, to succession. We can plan for succession with the right person, is what I'm trying to say. So I really think this is a great idea. And I'll make the suggested motion, which says move the creation of the new position, Deputy Building Inspector / Bylaw Enforcement Officer, so that the CAO can determine salary scale and benefits for the position.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, moved and seconded. Okay.
Just wondering on the point that CAO Muse said about, you know, municipalities stealing building inspectors from municipalities. So if we train somebody, is there some way that we can have a clause, or you know, if we train somebody, pay for the training, that we can have him or her for so many years? Because, you know, if you know, we train them and then the next municipality is looking for a building inspector and offers more money, well, you know, exactly what's happening right now, right? So is there some way that we can, you know, if we do go that route, that we can, you know, kind of like they do with, I guess, some of the doctor recruitment, pay so much and then they have to, you know, sign for a few years, and if they leave, they got to pay back or something. I don't know, just so we could retain that person for, I don't know if that's a practice in the building inspector.
Maybe it should be.
Yeah.
This happens often in other areas where, saw it in my field, right, where, you know, you get your education and then suddenly, boom, you know, you're no longer with Grant Thornton, you're with KPMG. So typically what would happen is there is a contract signed that says you have to stay a certain period of time. The reality situation, what typically happens in reality, is that that doesn't really stop them, because the other employer will pay. Okay, I'll look into it. I think it's a good thought. Our hope would be that we could retain, you know, but it's like anything else. Like, you take that risk with anyone that you train. But yes, I'll look into it. There could be a provision that we could put in place in a contract for that.
Yeah.
Councillor Stratton.
That was exactly my question.
I never mentioned this, sorry Hans, I didn't mention this, but it's also bylaw enforcement, right?
Yeah.
So that piece wasn't mentioned. And you know, with the dangerous and unsightly and all the other enforcement, that's all landing on Hans right now. And Hans also has a multitude of projects. So the municipality of Barrington has expressed an interest in sharing services. If we're able to successfully engage a building and bylaw enforcement officer, we would likely be in a situation where there'd be a shared service where they would pay us for our building, our bylaw enforcement, and we would pay them for their fire inspection. Their fire inspection is top notch. They do our work now, and so there is an opportunity to cost share, to make sure that we meet our provincial requirements. That is something.
Hans, did you have something to
Yeah,
add?
I'm just going to add just my personal experience, or just in regards to your question of having the risk that we invest into that new position, build that up, and then that position walks away with the training that we just provided and goes somewhere else, might be more attractive. I think if we just treat them well and provide them a great workplace, I think the risk is very small that they walk away. And just knowing my staff currently, I think they're, in my opinion, very happy in where they are, and I think offering these opportunities, that's what makes them stay here. So I see very little risk at the moment for that plan.
Okay. If there's no more discussion or question, all in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded? Carried. Next one is the RFD for the East Pubnico Water Utilities Well Capacity Assessment. There's a couple of attachments.
I can give more information on that. We started with, well, when we took over the water utilities in East Pubnico in 2012 from the province, there were multiple reports were done, one before the takeover and one after. Both reports pretty much said the equipment is it's beyond its lifetime. It needs either repairs or full replacement. So this year we started engaging WSP Canada, located in Dartmouth, with the Pope's Roads pump station upgrades. So they're preparing some electrical drawings right now and some civil drawings to help us with replacing equipment inside the well, just to make this well more reliable. And what we didn't really had envisioned was a well capacity test. And with the recent changes that we discovered that the way the well was installed, and there's some drawing plans missing from the province, so we researched a little bit. So now we're kind of looking at, well, how much can that well actually produce to make sure that the users at the other end have enough water. So with that engagement, we also have the Middle East Pubnico system, which is a separate system from Lower East. So there's two pieces that are completely disconnected. Everyone's one pipe and has equipment. So with the tank replacement in Middle East Pubnico, and it's coming up too, because that tank is far beyond lifetime and becoming a very high risk to the residential area. And if that tank collapses or leaks, that's 500,000 gallons of water rushing down the hill. So we have to act very soon. We started the process with trying to find funding. We have certain funding in place, but that's by far not enough, because that funding was received from the province during the takeover in 2012. So with inflation rates and the things just get more expensive, that money is no longer sufficient. So to make it short, we need to assess how much all three wells are currently active, how much they can produce, how much the users currently using, and then determine how big the tank has to be and what specifically needs to be done in Pope's Road. So that's a little bit taking two systems under one giant magnifying glass and trying to understand exactly what these wells can do, how much water we have, and what do we need. How much money do we need to replace that big tank on Middle East Pubnico? So that requires an additional $12,866 to establish this data. The previous two reports have been done, never did that. They didn't look at these capacity tests. They recommend them, but they never did them. So we don't have that data currently. So we have to create this to make sure we're sizing everything properly and have enough water available for the users so they can continue with the operation. So I think that operation of these three fish plants in East Pubnico are very vital to us.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve the proposal from WSP Canada and allow staff to proceed with the upgrades to both water systems in Middle East and Lower East Pubnico. This is very vital, like Hank said, it's very vital to the community.
I'll second that.
Oh,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Questions been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded? Carried. The next one, the airport contract extension. There's a couple of attachments here, or one attachment, 2 pages. We know, well, our contract is actually ending on March 31st. But there's been a few different developments at this point, or one anyway, that maybe we should be looking at extending rather than just trying to get a contract at this point. So CAO, if you want to take over.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to point out there's an error in the date. I think the motion says June 30th.
Yes.
60 days is actually May 31st. So I just want to point that out right away.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So
I didn't
it's,
see that.
So do we,
so it would be May 31st that we're talking about, not June.
Okay.
So, yeah, so 60 days is, apparently 60 days is 2 months. I had no idea.
Depends on what's
I started in the wrong month. The math was right, it started wrong. So, so basically all we're looking for here is with some of the changes that have occurred, or some of the, well, in particular, quite frankly, the town has looked at this and has a motion that they've tabled
yes.
for their continued ownership of the airport, or operation of the airport. So I think they tabled the motion because they felt like they needed more time, presumably, and so do we. We collectively need more time in order to establish what's going on. So here's this, what I would say is the 60 days that we're looking to extend would keep the contract exactly as it is, with one exception, and it's the funding. So if you recall, the old agreement said a minimum of $770,000 of funding. That would not be the case. It would be less than that.
685.
I think I have it at 675 or 685. 685. It may be actually less than that, but what we're saying is it's not 770.
No.
So we're not talking about being in the same boat as we have been in the past 4 years. The 60 days allows the CAOs to identify all of the issues, that are causing strain on either the relationship or the operation of the airport, or both. So we need that extra 60 days. That's all we're asking for right now. No other changes, which includes the town, right? So the town would remain as an owner. They are still an owner. That has the motion that the committee of the whole made was a recommendation to the regular council. Their regular council decided to table that motion. So nothing has changed, other than perhaps an idea that could occur. So the next 60 days would be critical to understanding exactly what that means. And I guess that's all there is to say. Now, that being said, we've made it very clear that we're not looking for a long-term contract. It feels strange to ask for another 60 days to have it end in in less than a year, but that might be what happens, right? So I just wanted to let you know that there's, all of those things are still up in the air, and they're still being discussed at the CAO level. Initially, I will be asking council. Obviously, council made their points quite clear through the facilitation, and there was, council didn't give us a mandate, but they were clear in what they wanted the airport to do over the next period of time. So I would presume that will direct me in the conversations.
With the town tabling their motion until July, is May 31st, how is that going to work if they haven't made a decision before July, and we try to have a contract by the end of May? Is that gonna be a problem, I guess, my question?
It could be, sure. I mean,
Because if they're not ready to say whether or not,
We can't have one, it's as simple as that. How do we know if we can have a contract if we don't even know who's gonna be partners, or owners in the operation?
right, so the negotiation from the town's perspective would likely seek to address the issues that brought them to the point where they made that motion in the first place.
yes.
So, I certainly cannot speak for the town and will not. I will say that usually when somebody wants out of something, there's a reason.
Yes.
And, we hope that the 60 days will allow us to understand our partners' reasons and have them understand ours.
Right.
We have all worked diligently to try to make that thing something other than what it is, try to make it better, different, and, at the end of the day, there's only so many resources.
Well, it gives everybody 60 days to think about it as well. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
if we extend, at least they have the same 60 days to.
and, the taxpayer is not without protection. I mean, the work that I did there
Yes.
allowed us a lower
Yes.
number moving forward. So it's not without some merit that we're moving forward with a lower number. The taxpayer is paying less for that service. And so the question is what next, right? And I think it was clear that it looked like everybody in the facilitation room seemed to be, well, other than the little surprise, seemed to be understanding that things have to change drastically. And so, without getting into too many details around that, but I don't think the three parties are that far apart in understanding. But there's still a lot of things that, for instance, the presentation that I did around taxation and property and, there's those things haven't been fully discussed with the town and the municipality to the extent, so it's understandable that they'd want.
They'd want more time.
Yeah, and we do too.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Yeah. Councillor Vivian?
The only thing I'd like to say is one thing I'd really like to see, is the provincial government step up more, and that with funding. One of the biggest reasons I feel as though that airport is needed in Yarmouth and is kept open is because of life flight and the missions coming in and going out, for the big part going out, to other hospitals that can't provide the care in Yarmouth. And I just feel as though the movement of these patients is something that should be done provincially, paid for provincially, and we are trying to keep it open with our municipal dollars. And there's patients being transported out monthly from Digby around to Shelburne out of that airport. And I just wish that the provincial government would come up with more monies for that airport.
Well, we all wish the same, but I don't, we pretty much know where that is anyway.
Well, we gotta keep trying, I think.
Yeah, Councillor Surratt.
I just probably want to make a comment that I feel that the town of Yarmouth is flip-flopping on this, and I think we're being used. I really feel we're being used by them. All of a sudden, they're at the table, and they come in and they sprung this on all of us. I felt like, as partners, we should have spoke about this prior to that, all of a sudden, that decision coming out. But having said that, I mean, if they want out, I certainly don't blame them. I think Alain might have said that before. They had the same opportunity as the municipality of Yarmouth and the municipality of Argyle to get out. And if they want out, then so be it. But this thing about we're off, we're on again, we're off again, middle of July, now it's going to the end of May. I think I certainly would like that our CAO, and I know he will, is when they sit down together, we get a firm date. Just messing around, to me, is a joke, and I feel it's a joke. It's not, for myself, we got to be on, as partners, work together a little bit better than that, it seems to me. That's all I have to say.
Any other discussion? So we have a motion here, we don't have a motion, there's
I'll
a
make the
suggested
motion
motion.
Move to extend the deadline of the current 4-year intermunicipal agreement to May 31st, 2019, with no amendments except for the revised funding requirement of $685,000, and that the negotiated agreement be brought to councils for approval as close to the deadline as possible.
Moved and seconded.
Question.
Question called. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Carried. So
Throw it
that's what we have. That's what we have for decision. Correspondence. I'll go through them, and if anybody has anything they wanted to discuss on it, you can stop me, and we'll do it one by one. The industry board member for YASTA.
Yeah, I brought that one up, and Roger D'Entremont, who's the industry rep, is retiring the end of March from the Village Historique. So he'll be stepping down, but there is a new manager coming in, and we haven't asked him yet, but we're kind of thinking about, and I'm talking by we, I'm on the YASTA board also, but I want to run this by council because council does make the decision. But in speaking with Neil McKenzie, we realize how important the village is as a tourism cornerstone, as a, you know, an anchor, and we thought we'd give the new manager maybe a chance to sit on the YASTA board. That way he could kind of get to see what it's all about in the area, right, as far as tourism. But again, if there was somebody else out there that could represent us, well, that's a possibility too. But anyway, that's just
It's something to think about anyway.
So you guys know what's going on there. So, thank you.
Bill 92, powers to expend amendments. Discussion. Funding request denial, enabling accessibility. We all know what that is.
That's the last of it. So all of our outstanding applications for funding for our admin building have been denied. We obviously got the FCM grant for net zero.
Yes.
There is another stream, there's another 2 streams, one through FCM that was just announced in the federal budget. That might be too late for us to get engaged in that one. The other is an ICIP, Infrastructure Canada Infrastructure, Invest Canada Infrastructure Plan, energy efficiency component that's flowing through the Department of Energy. I'm trying to get an understanding of when that will come out. But that means that our enabling of accessibilities, there were 2 applications, both were denied, and there was one on the wood, the NR wood, the for innovation in wood construction, that was denied as well.
We had that one last month.
Yes, we did.
Yes, that's right. Okay, this one here, South Shore Fieldhouse, financial statements. No discussion?
I know what a field house is now.
You know what a field house is. A lot of people don't know,
I didn't
for
know
sure,
that.
you know, what it meant, so. Develop Nova Scotia. Internet for Nova Scotia Initiative Update, March 2019. The federal budget 2019.
We passed that here, the federal budget.
We passed it here, yeah.
We can try.
Yes.
Did we fire him?
No.
And a thank you letter for $200 donation to CAPEB, and that was for their breakfast that they had on Mardi Gras. Financial request. We have one for the Holy Family Church.
I'd like to make a motion that we give the Holy Family Church the request for $500 from District Committee grant.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Carried. The other one is the Festival de la Barge Committee, request for $500.
I'd like to move that we give $500 to the Festival de Barge Committee for maintenance of the site and deposit rent.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded,
I
carried.
also have-
And you also have
I
another
also
one.
have, and if council would, I had brought it to, I brought to Ely, but I forgot to add it to our agenda, so if you would let me do it so I don't lose, so we don't lose it. It's the l'Association La Chapelle of Surrey Islands is requesting a district community grant of $500 for maintenance, repairs, and ongoing costs. We Kid de Chapelle as a small tourist destination there in our end.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded, carried.
All right,
Mr.
now I've
Dodgemore.
got 5 of them. The first one, I don't have a letter yet, but they're gonna send it. It's the Pumlico Area Alliance, and they are requesting or asking for $500 to fix their wheelchair accessible ramp. Okay, so that's one.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded,
Next
carried.
one is from the Village Historique. This will be Roger's last ask for community grant, but it's for the camp d'été pour les jeunes. It's a youth camp for that they run every summer. So they're asking for $500 for that one.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded,
Pumlico
carried.
Point Trail Association, asking again for $500 to help with the maintenance stuff of the trail.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded,
West
carried.
Pumlico Health Club, again, $500.
I'll second that motion. I'd like to thank Councillor D'Entremont for bringing that here for me tonight. I ran out of money myself, so he's
Very
using,
good.
using some of his for it. Thank you.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded, carried.
You're welcome, Glenn.
Thank you.
And I do believe the last one is the West Pumlico Athletic Association, $500 to fix around the ball field.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Contraminded, carried.
Hang on to them, Calvin, you can do them all again in 14 days. We'll be on a new budget.
Why not?
I like the way our warden thinks. Yeah.
Okay, so that's all for those. Any agenda topics for next meeting or notice of motion by councillors? Hearing none. Question period. Is there any questions online? No. Any questions? Hearing none. We have an in-camera and
So move to go in camera.
motion to go into camera.